Well, good morning, everybody. How's everybody doing? Who's here in the bushes? Who's here in the bushes? Say hi. We are going to talk about Anna Kepner's death. Very, very interesting. It's probably a case that's going to come and go pretty quickly, in my opinion. If you haven't heard about this case, it's the case of the 18-year-old cheerleader Anna Kepner, whose body was found on a Carnival cruise ship in a shared room on November 8th. And she was found by a house cleaner wrapped in a blanket and tucked under the bed and under the life preservers of the cruise ship. She was found the morning that the ship came back to shore to dock. And it has been reported that she died from asphyxiation, in other words, strangulation caused by a bar hold after someone's arm held across her neck. Hello, Marie Curie, my dear. Welcome in. Good morning. Do you have your coffee? I have my coffee. Oh, did you have a good sleep? Marie Curie? Thank you for being here. So we're just going to talk about this case this morning. And yours truly had a download about Sebastian Rogers, so I posted that. So we're going to talk about that tomorrow night at 6:30 p.m. But so let's get into Anna Kepner. It's a pretty sad case. I mean, this girl had her whole life ahead of her. She was 18. She was planning on going into the military. She was a cheerleader from Florida and was very bright and apparently just lit up a room when she entered into a room. And, 18 is, when life really starts for a lot of these young kids. So it's pretty sad. So let's listen in as to if you haven't followed this case, let's listen in. And as I said, I've been wanting to cover this case for a couple of weeks now, when it first came out, but I've just been so tired and everything. And but I really think that this one is going to it's going to clear its head before there's going to likely be arrests. It's just my opinion. I'm just going to put Ashley Banfield in Drop Dead Seriously. So, it's interesting because I enjoy my coffee listening while helping my mom with her morning routine. Thank you, sweetie. Yeah, so it's a pretty sad case. And Ashley Banfield talks about it here in her podcast, Drop Dead Serious. So we're just listening to this for a few minutes and then another video.
This is Drop Dead Serious. And if you haven't seen one of my podcasts in a little bit, I have some bad news and definitely a big change. And that is that Atlas will no longer be a part of the podcast. I lost Atlas this week at 15 and a half years old. And it has been just a gut-wrenching experience. I have my shit together right now, but it has been a brutal 4 days.
I know, honey. I know.
And I wanted to let you know because he's been such a big part of the podcast. We have the Atlas cam. I mean, many of you have commented on how much you love seeing him during the podcast. But for this episode, I have a little memory on the Atlas cam. It's his bowl, which I haven't emptied yet, and it's his collar, which still smells like him, and it's his leash, which is super old. I mean, I've had that same leash for over 10 years, and 2 little cookies, his favorite cookies. He loved Mother Hubbard cookies so much. And
poor Ashley lost her dog earlier this week on Monday, a golden doodle, which I've had 2 of them. My daughter has one now. I just absolutely love golden doodles. I had 2 siblings, and one of them was white like Ashley's Atlas dog, so it's sad for her. But anyways, she's going to get into a little bit more of the latest details of this case.
They're not my sponsors. I just he used to eat the little mini ones all the time, and I would feed him like 6 in a row, and then these are the bigger ones, and he'd get one of those. But on the day he died, he had a whole bunch of these big ones and an ice cream sundae. The vet made an ice cream sundae for Atlas.
I know, Marie Curie.
And It was
I
a very,
know.
very hard day. And I'm not going to lie, it's been a really hard time. And I'm so sorry that we're not going to have him part of this podcast. He is in the studio with me all the time. And when we're not in the studio, he was at my side all the time. He used to follow me into the bathroom. I mean, the dog never left my side. And
My doodles did the same thing. They're just the best pups, family dogs you could ever ask for. Just love them to
so
bits.
this is a big, you know, it's just a big a change for me. So, but I'm going to forge ahead. And in this episode, it's the case of the Florida cheerleader who vanished on board a Carnival cruise ship until the cleaning staff found her body stuffed under her bed. She was found in the stateroom that she shared with her two brothers, one a biological brother and one a stepbrother. And I'm going to start with something the investigators haven't said out loud, but everybody close to this case is certainly whispering. Anna Kepner's death on the cruise ship may not have been some tragic and random collapse in a cabin.
No.
Something was brewing long before this ship ever left port. Anna Kepner was 18 and a senior in high school in Florida. She came from a blended family and was on vacation with her brother, her dad, his wife, and her two kids. But tucked into that same family vacation was somebody who did not seem to treat her like a stepbrother should. Although the FBI isn't telling us much, people close to Anna are more than happy to share the dysfunction that seemed to plague Anna's family. The father of Anna's ex-boyfriend tells Inside Edition that Anna's stepbrother pursued her relentlessly, was obsessed with Anna, despite the fact that they were actually family. And her ex's father says his son witnessed one particularly disturbing incident during a FaceTime call with Anna. Have a look.
He saw her
Hey, Lisa.
stepbrother come in the room when she was sleeping
Yeah.
and get on top of her.
He says that Joshua warned Anna's family what had happened.
He says that I tried to tell the parents that this was happening, and they didn't want to believe me. He's like infatuated, attracted to her like crazy. He's always wanted to date her.
The ex-boyfriend's dad also...
They didn't want to believe the ex-boyfriend. The ex-boyfriend. So to be clear, just to back up here a little bit, what happened was this. Hey, Lisa, good morning, honey. Are you drinking your coffee? Are you having some coffee? I'm having my second cup to wake up slowly. I'm so excited for this weekend. My grandson, after this live, is coming over. My daughter's taking herself to the spa, and his brother's going to the other grandma's house for sleepovers, and she's going to go and read. We have an outdoor spa here out in nature and close to where we live. And she's going to take her ebook, her Kobo, I guess, and just sit in the sun, go to the spa, sleep in, and then go for a jog tomorrow. So I'm excited to have my grandsons. And then tomorrow I'm taking him over, my grandson, to see my other daughter and my 1-year-old granddaughter, and they're cousins, of course, and they love each other. You're drinking your lemon water, Liane? Okay. Hey, Lisa, I used to drink lemon water in the morning too. It really helps with the gut. Okay, so let's get back into it.
So says that Anna...
Oh, yeah. So what happened was he was interviewed, and he came out to say, well, 6 months ago when he was dating Anna, they broke up 6 months ago not 6 months ago, they broke up 6 months ago, but while he was dating Anna in this new family relationship. So it's a really convoluted... Good for coffee. I know. Listen, I'm trying to quit because it's really not good for my gut. And I only have 1 cup a day, but this is my second cup today. I don't do that anymore because I have a bad stomach. But yeah, my kids bought me a magnet to put on my fridge when I was when they were teenagers. It was like, don't talk to my mom until she's had her 2 cups of coffee. Yeah, but it's hard on my guts. I'm really, really want to try to give it up, but it's not something I've done yet. But I've cut back to 1 cup a day. Anyway, so he is interviewed. Parents take him away, rush him away in the middle of the interview. We'll watch a little bit of that, I think. That's one of the clips I picked. But anyway, it doesn't matter. All that to say, he, when they were dating, this family is convoluted. Anna was born to her current bio dad, who was the father on the trip, who she lives with, as do her younger siblings. And there's a custody battle going on between his new wife and her ex-husband. And this is it was Anna's dad's third wife. So she's got step siblings, and her biological mother apparently is completely out of the picture. Lost, it sounds like maybe lost custody. I'm not 100% sure. I'm just piecing those things together. And so there was a convoluted life of siblings and step siblings. Like she had, 2 stepmoms and 2 sets of 2 step siblings. So 4 step siblings and 2 bio siblings. Coffee first, you people later. Oh no, my children fave me a sign saying coffee first, you people later. That's hilarious. That's hilarious. That's hilarious. So anyways, he gave an interview that while he was dating Anna, they broke up again like 6 months ago. And this new relationship, by the way, is only a year old. So they book a cruise as a family with dad, Anna, her younger step sister, I believe, or a younger biological sister, rather. Not sure. Hang on. Let me just get clear because it's awfully confusing. Let me just get my mind back in out of it. There is a younger biological brother that she slept with in that room, as well as her stepbrother. And I think there was her 9-year-old sister might have slept with the parents because there's no mention of where she was in this situation. So anyways, the ex-boyfriend comes forward to say that when he was dating Anna, they were on FaceTime, and he doesn't elaborate, and his parents rushed him away, so he's not giving us excruciating details here. But he says while he was dating Anna and they were FaceTiming, this stepbrother was seen, he with his own eyes saw the stepbrother getting into bed with Anna and attempting to mount her sexually. So, and he was reported to be obsessed with her, and she was sharing this cabin with him. And now this boy's father is in this clip saying he tried to warn the family and they wouldn't hear of it. So they ignored the warnings that he tried to tell them, bio dad of Anna and step mom of Anna, the mother of this boy we're discussing, was allegedly obsessed with her and trying to mount her. And he tried to tell the parents and they wouldn't take him seriously. Then they fast forward. They're on a cruise 6+ months later, and she's sharing a room with him. Dies of asphyxiation, stuffed under the bed in the room she was sharing with him. I mean, these parents need to be taken up for irresponsibility. Like, that's just, and this kid. So my prediction, we're going to talk about it a little bit more, but I'm just saying right now, this kid, I think he's as guilty as heck. I think they already have the evidence they need. The FBI is involved because it happened over international seas. No, exactly, Lisa, especially at those ages. But I'm more disappointed. I'm more disgusted. Okay. We are in a time where women who are aped, are aped, abused, assaulted, SA'd sexually, are afraid to come out and not be believed. And you've got the boyfriend of a 60 or 18-year-old Anna. I mean, I don't know if she was 17 at the time or anything like that, but very complicated case. It is, but it isn't. Like, to me, if you just bring it down to the nuts and bolts, because this is sounding like we're going to get this report, and the next report we're going to get is kid pleads and is in juvenile detention. You know what I mean? Like, that'll be the update, and then this story's going to go away. Because he's a minor, he's going to get some sort of juvie, whatever. Let's hope he gets some sort of, hey, Deanna, sweetie, how are you? Nice to see you. I haven't seen you in a while. My dear, you're going to want to be here tomorrow night at 6:30 p.m. I'm going to be updating. I had a clear download on Sebastian Rogers. It's not the first time I've heard this word. I had the most incredible experience last night. I'll talk about it tomorrow night at 6:30 p.m. on Sebastian. I've pieced something together finally. Oh my God. So wild. Anyway, 6:30 tomorrow night for Sebastian Rogers. But it was, yes, it's always, everything happening on the cruise ship is always on international waters, which thank God for that. The FBI are involved, because otherwise, they'll get around it, because it's been reported by Ashley Banfield and Brian Anton that it's hard to solve crimes on cruise ships. Like, yes, they have cameras everywhere, but because it's international waters, forcing the cruise lines to get to hand over their stuff, they're not always so cooperative, because they don't want this negativity coming to them, about the crimes that are committed. And apparently it's quite substantial nowadays on cruise ships. But this one is the onus, in my opinion, of the family. This one's on the family. They had the red flag warning. They chose to ignore it. And I think it's very disheartening and disgusting for a young woman of 18 years of age who is getting into and living in this sexual predator era, which is it's just the way the world is these days. If you're a beautiful young woman, and if you've got men around you that don't respect women and have this, she's going to be likely exposed to this somewhere, shape or form in her life, because of its rampantness in the young age of these children these days. You hear of stories where young kids go to bars and they're, they've got the rape pill, whatever it's called. I can't even remember, date rape pill dropped into their drink these days, and all kinds of stuff like that. It's like, yeah, exactly. We got Amy Bradley we were going to talk about, but anyway. So yeah, I just think these parents owed her a better, they owed her more. Like, if they didn't even take this child seriously, and of course now we'll never know whether or not they even discussed this with her. Did they even go to Anna and say, your ex-boyfriend, at the time boyfriend, is trying to tell us this? Is this really what's going on? Was dad afraid to upset the apple cart with the new girlfriend? I mean, I don't really give it a lot. I don't really care. Your child should always come first, in my opinion. But anyways, let's listen on.
Was scared of her stepbrother because she said he always carried around a big knife.
Yikes.
Inside Edition also spoke with Anna's biological mother. She lives in Oklahoma and says that she hasn't seen her daughter in years. The woman says that Anna's father didn't even tell her that their daughter was dead, and says that she was banned from Anna's memorial service in Florida today, but was intent on going anyway, dressed in a disguise.
I'm going to put a wig on and wear some really tall shoes because I'm 4'9".
There's also this word of surveillance video from just outside the cabin that Anna shared with that 16-year-old stepbrother and her 14-year-old biological brother. The FBI isn't releasing that video or any other information, but quoting sources, the Daily Mail reports that Anna is seen returning to the cabin alone on the evening of November 6th, having excused herself from dinner because she wasn't feeling well. The Daily Mail then says that the footage showed Anna's cabin mates, the 14-year-old brother and the 16-year-old stepbrother, returning to the cabin, though not necessarily at the same time. The younger boy, her brother, then leaves again, reportedly to take pictures of the ship, and comes back later for the night.
Okay, so they go out to dinner as a family the last night of the cruise. Anna goes back to her room early, saying she doesn't feel well, is shortly then followed to their cabin by her biological brother and this stepbrother. Then the biological brother leaves the room. I know, Lisa, it is sad. Biological brother leaves the room to go take pictures of the cruise ship. And here we go.
But sources say he never saw his big sister when he got back to the room, but thought that maybe she'd gone out. And so he went to bed, off to sleep on his bunk bed, never knowing that Anna's body was stuffed underneath her own bed, just mere feet away from him. She was covered in blankets and life jackets. It was a cleaning worker that made the awful discovery the following morning. Earlier on my News Nation show, I talked to somebody who knows everything about this case. Josh Boswell is a senior reporter for thedailymail.com.
Can you imagine? I just want to say this right for a second. Can you imagine the trauma that this child, this 13-year-old biological brother, is going to deal with for the rest of his life? And it gets worse than that, because we're going to hear when he came back from taking pictures, okay, he heard screaming and fighting coming from the cabin and tried to get in, but the stepbrother prevented him from getting in. So he's outside hearing the fighting and probably the last moments of his sister's life alive. And then when he's finally let into the cabin, he can't see his sister. So I'm not sure what happens in between, if he leaves and comes back, because how can you hear noises from inside, leave and come back and not see her and not know she's somewhere hidden in the room? He had to have left and come back, unless he's fabricating this story, which I really doubt. So I'm going to err on he left and came back. And when he came back into the cabin, he couldn't see her because likely it was dark in the cabin and her body was stuffed under the bed beside him. This kid's going to have trauma for the rest of his life. He couldn't get in to save her. And then he slept beside her all night with her dead body in the cabin and he didn't know it. I feel so horrible for this child. And these parents that took these kids on the cruise cannot be trusted to get him the proper help, and just in my opinion.
And he had even more disturbing information about what Anna's 14-year-old brother
Marie
said he heard happening inside that.
So the fight happened the night before, and she was only found the morning after when they were deporting. The cruise was done. So the night before was their last night on the ship. They're at dinner. She goes to bed early. She's not feeling well. She's sharing a cabin with her biological brother, her stepbrother. Exactly, Lisa, and her stepbrother. And then they follow her in. The biological brother leaves the cabin to go take pictures of their last night on the ship. The parents are having dinner with her biological sister. Presumably she slept. So the two parents and the bio sister, younger sister, slept in one cabin, 3 in one cabin, and the 3 teenagers in the other cabin, one of which was the stepson. And so that he slept all night with her body under there. And it wasn't until the morning at breakfast, she didn't show up. And they searched all the cabins that the cleaning lady found her body under the bed.
That stateroom right before Anna died. I'm going to play you our entire conversation, but first, a very quick thank you for supporting this channel. Couldn't do it without you. I really appreciate you. Also, a big thank you to my sponsor, Morgan & Morgan. They really make this possible. Morgan & Morgan is huge, guys. It is a really, really big deal. I don't know if you know this, but they are America's largest
I'm
personal...
so sick of Morgan & Morgan. Sorry, Ashley, but...
Back to the case and what Anna's brother heard from behind the locked cabin door. Here is my conversation with Josh Boswell, senior reporter for thedailymail.com.
Josh, I keep wondering, it's such a mystery as to how this young girl died and what the condition of her body was when it was discovered by the cleaning crew. Do we have any information at all on how she died, cause of death, or the manner in which she was discovered?
No, that is one part of this that remains a real mystery. And, it's worth pointing out that the FBI has not declared that this is a murder. They haven't said that she was killed. Her body was found. She was found dead. We don't know what exactly she died of. And the coroner has not released any details about the cause of death yet.
Well,
then
that's,
speaking of this surveillance video.
This tape was, this was made 16 hours ago. Okay, yesterday. And since then it's been reported, as I just read at the beginning of this, that the conclusion has come in that she was strangled to death, died by asphyxiation, by somebody putting their arm, strangling her with their arm on her neck. Yeah.
And the patterns of who walked into that room and when, and who walked out of that room. Do we know if Anna died in that room?
So that's what we can surmise, because what we've learned, and my colleague Ben Ashford on my team at Daily Mail has done some fantastic reporting on this. He got from sources close to the family and a source who has been briefed on the investigation that there is CCTV footage that it shows Anna going back into that room and never coming out again. And then her body was discovered. So we can deduce from that that she died in that room. We've got the biological brother and then the stepbrother coming into the room. But there is also another very disturbing allegation. I want to stress it's just an allegation at this point. But again, from that ex-boyfriend, he was speaking after the memorial service that was held this evening in Titusville, Florida, her hometown. And he was saying that he had spoken to the younger brother, the biological brother, after all this had happened. And what that 14-year-old had told him was that he had heard
exactly,
shouting,
Deanna,
screaming,
exactly.
what sounded like furniture being thrown around. He tried to get back into the room, and the stepbrother blocked his way and told him to leave.
Wow.
So that's an extra development here that kind of adds a nuance to this, that there was perhaps some conflict going on there. But again, this has not been verified, and this is just the ex-boyfriend saying what he was told, allegedly, by the younger biological brother.
So if we're to believe what the ex-boyfriend says he was told by this younger biological brother, this confrontation, the yelling, the screaming, and the blocking of not being able to get back into his room, this happened right prior to the death, or days before, or what was the timeline of that confrontation?
The timeline for this, according to that ex-boyfriend, Josh Tew, that was the night that she went into the cabin and never emerged. What we have from the coroner in Miami is the date of death being declared at 11 a.m. the next morning, but that doesn't seem to be when she actually died. It seems like she may have died at some point during that night of November 6th. She certainly didn't show up for breakfast the next morning, November 7th. That's when the family was alerted to her being missing, something being wrong. But also this younger biological brother, 14-year-old, was saying that he never saw her. When he came back to the room, he didn't see her. He went to bed and got up, and she still wasn't there. So we don't know.
So, okay. So I've been hearing reports he was 13, now 14. So with this case, with all the kids and stuff, there's some, a few little specific details, like is he 13 or 14? That is, yeah, I agree with you, Deanna. I mean, this kid is, can you imagine at 13 or 14, he's this kind of a child, like what's going to happen to him down the road? I mean, it's very, very, very concerning.
Exactly when she died. We don't know exactly when her body ended up underneath her own bed, wrapped in this blanket. But
the 16-year-old that attacked her, rather, allegedly.
We know that it's in the time frame of between when she left in the evening for dinner. She left dinner early from the rest of the family on November 6th, and at some point later that evening, when the younger brother, if we are to go on his reported testimony to what he's telling other family members, what he's allegedly told the ex-boyfriend, sometime later that evening. That's what I think we're piecing together right now.
And important to note that this is the FBI handling this, not the Miami police, because it was out on, the open seas and international waters, and that's why it may be more difficult to get this information. I'll just ask you this last question. I'm pretty sure you don't have the answer, as most of us don't. Do we know if toxicology is being performed on Anna's body, and if there's going to be any results announced anytime soon?
We don't have any information confirming that, but I think one can assume that the investigators on this case are going to try every method they can to find out what happened to her. It may be that there's something more obvious, something physical on the body that would help determine the cause of death, but we don't know that right now. And if I'm an investigator on this case, I would want to pursue every avenue.
Yeah, unless there's something so incredibly obvious about the condition that her body was found in. Gosh, Josh Boswell, thank you so much for this. I hope you'll come back as we continue to try to figure this mystery out. So appreciate it.
And so that's where we leave it. The FBI, they are lead on this case. And that's hard. Everyone who goes on a cruise should know it ain't the same when you're on the high seas. When you're in international waters, you don't get the same kind of policing you would if something happens here at home. If it happens in another country, a whole other ballgame entirely. That's not even the FBI. They can visit, but they're not lead. So right now, on this case, the FBI is lead. And if you know true crime, you know how tight-lipped the FBI is. You can barely find information. And what is even more fascinating is that if this 16-year-old stepbrother ends up charged or embroiled in some kind of litigation regarding this case, the federal system offers even more protections for youth.
Yeah,
which means
exactly.
It will be even more difficult for us to get information on the case.
Yep.
And then you know how it works, right? Sometimes you could be adjudicated, go to juvie, and then have everything scrubbed clean when you turn 18.
Mm-hmm.
I'm jumping way ahead of my skis here. The only reason we know that this kid is a suspect at all in this case is not from the FBI, is not from the authorities. It's from custodial filings. Yeah. The 16-year-old's dad and mom are fighting over custody of him and his 9-year-old sister. So the 16-year-old is on the cruise with his mother, right? Mom is now married to Anna's dad. But mom of the 16-year-old is fighting her ex over custody. And they're filing all these competing custodial papers with the court. And that's where we learned from both sides that their kid is being targeted as a potential suspect, that they say the FBI has told them so. And they put it in a court document as they fight each other. And I'm starting to think, have you two fucking idiots lost the plot? You're really fighting over custody at this point. You might want to join forces because your 16-year-old kid could be up on murder if that's where this case is going. In any case, they're still bitching and moaning about who gets the 9-year-old. What we're told is that the 16-year-old isn't even staying with either of them right now, but is with another family member. It is a mess, y'all. But hopefully there'll be some resolution soon. We don't know a cause of death. We don't know the condition of Anna's body. We don't know what they know and what they don't know. But here's what I know after being in this business long enough. Kids who are 16, they're not very good criminals. They don't do things real well. They don't cover their tracks. They do stupid shit, like stuffing a body under a bed and thinking, there you go, nothing more to see here. And so typically when investigators get involved, if kids are the perpetrators, it's a lot easier to solve. And let's hope that's the case if in fact the 16-year-old has something to do with this. Once again, we do not know that to be the case. We know that the parents themselves have said so, that the parents of the 16-year-old, while fighting with each other, have said in court papers they don't want to discuss this case right now because they could incriminate themselves or the child because the FBI has told them that he might be a suspect in this case. It doesn't get more serious. So we're going to keep watching it. I do think you should subscribe because these developments come fast and furious, and I'm dropping these podcasts like they're hot, and I don't want you to miss any developments. So make sure you hit subscribe. As always, I'm Ashley Banfield. I'm so thankful that you're here. I really appreciate you. So from Atlas and me, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. And remember, the truth isn't just serious. It's drop dead serious. Hey, everyone.
So that is the first video. So it's really, really sad, you know, it's really, really sad that if there was warnings by these parents that they chose to ignore it, you know, it's not cool. It's not cool. So we're going to watch another video here because we're going to get a little more insight from an attorney on how this might go down because of the custody battle now. Whoa, does it ever get complicated? Does it ever get complicated? It's yeah. So we're gonna listen to this. This is Law and Crime. Let me just get my banner ready. And it's very enlightening. And I was going to do a third video, but then this finalized, like Ashley reported this yesterday. And then last night, I just read to you at the beginning of this, TMZ and other people reporting, as did News Nation, that right after this was, people were putting a bunch of videos out. So late yesterday, Friday, it came out she was strangled to death. So I'm not playing as many videos as I was originally intending because, like I said, I think this is going to come and go, this case. I think now that we know that the results show she was strangled to death, it's going to be an open and shut. It's going to be kept quiet because he's a juvie. And that'll be probably the end of this case, in my opinion. So let's listen to this now.
News: we just learned an alleged cause of death in the case of the teenage varsity cheerleader found dead on a Carnival cruise ship. The new information is coming just a day after her parents named a member of their own family a, quote, suspect in Anna Kepner's death.
Can I speak?
That video is per News 6 in Orlando, and that is Anna Kepner's stepmom appearing in court in a separate custody case, but it is a case where we are learning more about the boy.
I'm not trying to be judgmental of this stepmom, but she doesn't look old enough to have kids, a 16-year-old child, but apparently she is.
Now at the alleged center of this case. We're on the case presented by Law and Crime. I'm Chris Stewart. All right, hey guys, before we get into this case, let's talk about the app Upside. It is free and gets you cash back on daily essentials like gas and groceries. Upside, it's gallon on your first tank of gas. The FBI and medical examiner have yet to confirm the details in the investigation into Anna Kepner's death, but a bombshell report just came down that is claiming to know how this girl died on a Carnival cruise ship, and it points to this being a murder investigation. Now, this is the video per WSVN in Miami from November 8th when Kepner's body was taken off of the Carnival cruise ship named the Horizon. This video was shot by reporter Sheldon Fox. Kepner, again, just 18 years old, was a high school senior, a varsity cheerleader from Titusville, Florida, which is about 3 hours north of Miami. Kepner was on the cruise ship that launched out of Miami. It was a 6-day cruise with her dad, stepmom, and 2 of her stepmom's biological children, a 9-year-old daughter and a 16-year-old son. And there is a lot of attention now on that 16-year-old because he reportedly shared a stateroom with Anna Kepner. I have a big update on him that we are going to get to in just a moment. It is being alleged that he was obsessed with his stepsister. Now, here is the timeline that's been laid out of the alleged final days of Kepner's life. So let's go to November 6th. And this was one of the last days on this cruise. Kepner wasn't feeling well, and the Daily Mail says that she was at dinner with her family and she told her family that she was just going to go back to her room. Now that brings us to November 7th, the next day. Kepner's family, they got together for breakfast and Anna didn't show up. It was around 11 o'clock that morning that the Daily Mail says a maid entered Anna's stateroom and made a horrifying discovery. Kepner's body was allegedly found wrapped in a blanket, covered with life jackets and stuffed under a bed. Now, people aboard the ship say around that time, they heard an alert about a medical emergency on deck 8, and people who were staying in staterooms near Kepner's were told that they would need to leave those rooms earlier than originally planned the next day, which is when the ship returned to port. Kepner's body, once back on land, was sent to the medical examiner in Miami on November 8th. Now, it is alleged that Kepner died as the cruise was making its way from Mexico back to South Florida. Now, it is interesting that the medical examiner listed Kepner's death at a very specific time, 11:17 in the morning on November 7th. So that is the day before the ship returns to Miami. The FBI is investigating this case. They have not said much more other than that publicly, but a bombshell report just came down from ABC News citing a source that says that Kepner was allegedly suffocated to death. ABC says that she was put in a, quote, bar hold where an arm is put across her neck. There were reportedly 2 bruises on the side of her neck. ABC is also saying that preliminary investigation does not show any signs of sexual assault, and there are also no signs of drugs or alcohol in her system. All of this is according to ABC News. Now, as far as a suspect, a lot of signs are allegedly pointing to her 16-year-old stepbrother, who she reportedly shared a room with on this cruise.
It's our understanding that because the cruise was in international waters, that the young child, not the 9-year-old, but the 16-year-old was allowed to drink.
So what we're watching now is video. This is the 16-year-old's bio dad on the right with the checkered shirt. His attorney is the guy in the beard with the beard and the glasses. And what we're watching is a video conference of bio dad on the right and bio mom of the 16-year-old accused of murdering Anna. Ashley Banfield was just saying, they're fighting over the custody of these kids. This is an emergency hearing. Bio dad is trying to get access to the younger sibling, given what's happened on the cruise. They're terrified, for the well-being of these kids now, because the mother made poor decisions that this now has the 16-year-old, their son, in a murder investigation. And it gets more complicated because of the breakup of the parents and the divorce. So this is what we're going to hear about now.
This is video per News 6 in Orlando of a custody hearing involving Kepner's stepmom. Her name's Chantel Hudson. She is married to Anna's biological dad. Now, Chantel has been going through custody proceedings with her ex-husband for more than a year, according to court records that we've reviewed. On Thursday, she, her ex, and their attorneys appeared in court in a virtual hearing. And in that hearing, her ex's attorney said, quote, the older child, who is approximately 16 years of age, is a suspect in the death of the stepchild. Now, that is the first time that the word suspect has been used in this case. Earlier this week, Chantel filed an emergency motion for continuance of hearing on petitioner's motion for contempt and enforcement. In plain terms, she wanted to delay a hearing in this custody case that was scheduled for December 17th. And this case has nothing to do with Anna Kepner's death, at least now directly. This case has been going on for more than a year, but now the death of Anna Kepner, the potential involvement of one of the stepchildren in this case, has brought all of this to the light. Now, the document says the respondent has been advised through discussions with FBI investigators and her attorneys that a criminal case may be initiated against one of the minor children of this instant action. Chantel wanted to push back the hearing because of what the motion describes, quote, as an extremely sensitive and severe circumstance that has arisen. And Hudson would not be able to testify at that hearing, according to this motion. The document claims that she might have to plead the fifth. Now, it goes on to say, quote, currently there is an investigation being conducted by the Federal Bureau of Investigation arising out of the sudden death of 18-year-old Anna Kepner, who was found deceased on November 9th, 2025 on a Carnival cruise. Miss Anna Kepner, the deceased, is the daughter of the respondent's paramour, and the respondent and the minor children of this instant action were all on the cruise ship together, end quote. We do want to note that the document lists that.
I mean, I agree with Ashley, but at the same time, I can also understand why BioDad is trying to get this emergency hearing, and mom's trying to avoid going there because she doesn't want to lose her child, but they're already fighting for custody, and this is not going to bode well for mom, I don't think. If these facts are true, that mom was warned and dad were warned about this stepson, her own son. And she probably didn't want to believe it. Nobody wants to believe their child's capable of this, but you should never ignore warnings and those kind of accusations. You never ignore those because something like this can happen and it's really sad and tragic.
She was found deceased on November 9th because the ship returned to port and Kepner's body was taken to the medical examiner's office on the 8th. We do believe that that is a typo. In the court hearing this week, we saw the attorney for Chantal's ex-husband make some allegations related to what happened on board the ship. The attorney says the 16-year-old stepbrother reportedly was sharing a room with Anna Kepner, and he says that because the ship was in international waters, the 16-year-old boy was allowed to drink alcohol. Now, Chantal's attorney pushed back on that and said that there is surveillance video that shows the stepbrother did not drink on board the ship. And the attorney also said that DCF investigated the case and saw there was no alcohol in Chantal's home. Now, we did look up Carnival Cruise Line's rules when it comes to alcohol and minors. And on its website, it says that people do need to be 21 years old to drink aboard the ship, no matter where it's located. But back to this hearing. Chantal said that the stepbrother had to be hospitalized, quote, immediately after the incident. And she did not say why. We are talking about her biological son.
So the 16-year-old had to be hospitalized. Now, whether that, to me, that's probably standard protocol. I'm just guessing he was probably hysterical, like he killed somebody allegedly, and it's also probably a protective measure to keep him protected out of law enforcement. I'm not sure. That's just my sense. He probably needed to be hospitalized, but he's no longer staying with mom.
She also said that her son has a, quote, psychiatrist appointment next month, but she did not elaborate any more on that.
Whoa, I didn't hear that. I missed that the first time. So he's been having psychiatric challenges, psychological challenges that he's got. Their room had a balcony view. Probably they didn't throw. Yeah, no kidding, eh, Renee? Yeah. And so I didn't hear this before. Welcome in, Renee. I never heard before that he had an appointment with a psychiatrist in a month from now. So he was already displaying issues. So that makes it even worse if they ignored these warnings from Anna's ex-boyfriend. That makes it even more troubling.
Now, the boy who the parents say is a suspect in Kepner's death is now living with one of his mom's relatives. It's been reported that
the other thing I was thinking, because I watched Vinny's podcast as well. I was going to show it today, but it's too long. Go watch it if you want on his private podcast, The Tangent, last night and or yesterday afternoon. And, they were talking about the fact that why wouldn't they get 3 rooms? Why wouldn't they get a room for the 2 girls and the 2 boys in their own room? 2 girls, 2 boys, and the 2 parents. So 3 rooms. And I was thinking probably cost, but they obviously are not short on money if they put the kids in a balcony room. That's a great point, Renee. So would you not just say, hey, you don't get a balcony, you get your own room? I mean, that was the parents' room I think they were in. I don't think the kids' room was a balcony room based on what Vinny showed on that podcast, but the parents had a balcony room and that was a treat. But maybe they could have sacrificed that in lieu of three rooms. Just a thought.
Kepner's stepbrother was allegedly, quote, obsessed with her. This is according to the dad of one of Anna's ex-boyfriends. He spoke to Inside Edition. Quote, she was scared of him because he always carried around a big knife, the man said. And he also said his son once saw the stepbrother go into Kepner's room during a FaceTime call, quote, when she was sleeping and get on top of her. He also went on to say he's like infatuated, attracted to her like crazy. He always wanted to date her. Now, the FBI has not officially said whether the stepbrother is a suspect in Kepner's death, but that stepbrother did reportedly share a stateroom with her during this cruise. Anna's stepmom's custody case involving that 16-year-old will next go before the court on December 5th. News 6 in Orlando reports that the hearing is expected to be 4 hours long, and Kepner's biological dad, who was on the cruise, could testify at that hearing. Now, he's given a couple interviews since the death of his daughter, but nothing since these new developments about how she was allegedly found have been made public. Now, Chantal has made her Facebook page private since the news of these court documents became public this week. But prior to that, she had an ABC News article posted to her feed, which she said would be the only interview that her husband, Anna's dad, was going to do. Now, in that interview, there's a quote that says, quote, when she walked into a room, she would light it up. If you were sad, she'd make you laugh. She would joke around. She'd be the funniest little person in school. A week ago, the Daily Mail also spoke to Anna's dad, Chris Kepner. This appears to be his last interview since the custody case involving his now wife has gone public. He told the Daily Mail, quote, we were there as a family. Everybody was questioned. Everybody came off of that ship. I don't know who they are looking at or what their investigation is. When the Daily Mail posted their report on how Anna's body was found, they said that Anna's dad did not return their calls for comment. Now, I did reach out to Carnival Cruise Lines for a statement. This is what they told us. The death of a guest traveling on the Carnival Horizon voyage that returned to Port Miami on Saturday morning, November 8th, is being investigated by the FBI. Since this is an ongoing matter under the jurisdiction of law enforcement, it is up to the FBI's Miami Public Affairs Office to provide further details. Our focus is on supporting the family of our guest. Now, as the details of an investigation into the death of Anna Kepner have come to light, people continue to honor her life that was taken far too soon. Now, people gathered to celebrate Anna's life on Thursday at a church near her hometown. Kepner's obituary reads, quote, at just 18 years old, she filled the world with laughter, love, and light that reached everyone around her. Her family has said that she had just taken a test with plans to join the military after she graduated high school in May. One day, she hoped to be a police officer in her hometown. But for as much as people are remembering and honoring Anna Kepner, some have said there were signs that were missed, and we'll just have to see what happens in her case as the FBI continues to investigate. And at the point of this recording, no one has been arrested in connection to the...
And still, nobody continues to be arrested. I was going to show you the clip of the boyfriend that comes forward. I'm going to look for a small clip on that. When the boyfriend was interviewed, the ex-boyfriend of Anna, rather, saying this 16-year-old stepbrother tried to jump on her when he was on FaceTime when he was dating Anna. I'm going to look for just a short clip on that in a second here.
Death of Anna Kepner. I spoke with retired NYPD Detective Tom Smith, co-host of the Gold Shields podcast, about this investigation, but we did the interview before the breaking news came in of Kepner's alleged cause of death. Joining us now to talk more about this case is retired NYPD Detective Tom Smith. Also,
just to be very clear, I did just see Renee and as I was looking for this article, the room picture with the balcony view is a prior cruise. So let's remove all that. That was a prior cruise. Yes, I'll find it, Lisa. I know where it is in a longer video, but I'm trying to find a shorter version. But that, just so we know, Renee, I just noticed in the TMZ article that the video of her with an open room balcony view is a prior cruise. Yeah, I myself don't want to spread things. So
the co-host of the
let's listen in, and I got to look for that video.
Here, on Law and Crimes, you kind of figure out a case that is still such a mystery at this point. For this 16-year-old step-brother of Anna Kepner, and we don't know if this is a murder, but if he's facing a charge like that, what goes into determining whether he could actually face charges as an adult?
Well, that's going to be determined later on with the cause of death or the depravity of the crime. The feds and the U.S. Attorney's Office, if they choose to keep this case, will make that determination down the line when and if he's charged.
And just this story, since her body was taken off of the cruise ship, and you don't see cases like this that often on cruise ships, which is, I think, fueled so much of the interest and the speculation.
Okay, I'm going to pause it here, and we're going to go back to this so I can show you this clip first. I know it's not normally how we do things, but I just want to show you this clip that they're talking about. Hang on. Okay, let me get it in now. I did find it, and I got to go back, and here it is. I got to open it. Let's see. Okay. Let's show you. It's just a quick clip, and then we'll go back. Just a quick clip by Inside Edition. And then we will go back and finish that interview for the legal commentary. And then I just wanted to honor this poor young girl, but I really think we're not going to hear much after this because I think it's kind of a slam dunk. But let's listen in here.
Details about Anna Kepner, the 18-year-old high school cheerleader who was found dead on a cruise ship. It's being reported she died of asphyxiation after an arm was held against her neck. This all comes as we speak with Anna's ex-boyfriend, who says loud screams and chairs being thrown were heard inside Anna's cabin before her naked body was found shoved under a bed. Anne Mercogliano has the latest.
Was 18-year-old cheerleader Anna Kepner strangled to death aboard the cruise ship. ABC News reports that Anna died from asphyxiation. She was strangled with a bar hold using an arm across her neck. She was not sexually assaulted, and there were no signs of drugs or alcohol. He would bring you home. Hours before she was found dead on the cruise ship, the sound of a violent confrontation reportedly could be heard inside her stateroom. We're told Anna's 14-year-old brother Connor says he tried to get into the stateroom that he, Anna, and their 16-year-old stepbrother were sharing, but that it was locked. Anna and the stepbrother were still inside, and Connor reportedly says he could hear disturbing sounds through the door.
That's
Anna's
not good.
ex-boyfriend says he spoke to the cheerleader's brother about what happened that night.
You heard him yelling at her, like in a harmful way, like shut the hell up and stuff like that. And
this is the ex-boyfriend now?
That's when Connor knew something was going on.
And there was screaming going on.
Yes, ma'am. Like something was like banging around and stuff, and like the chairs were getting thrown around in the room.
Anna's ex, Joshua, too, spoke with Inside Edition following her funeral at a church outside Orlando. He says that Anna was so afraid of her stepbrother that she frequently slept over at her friends' homes.
She just didn't feel safe around him.
Joshua says the 16-year-old stepbrother, who is now under suspicion in Anna's death, was sexually harassing her. He says he once saw him trying to climb into bed with her.
She's scared to tell anybody because she was scared that he would do something to her.
The FBI is investigating Anna's death because it happened in international waters. There was a tense atmosphere at Anna's funeral last night. Anna's biological mother told Inside Edition she was banned from attending but snuck in wearing a wig. Mourners were told to dress in bright colors to reflect Anna's bubbly personality.
It's been pretty hard. She was my first love. She was the greatest thing ever.
Yeah, sad. So he came forward. Oh, it's sad. So let's go back to watching the rest of this clip now, so we can just get this legal perspective over now, because the parents are involved in this custody battle and everything, how this complicates the case, because yeah, it's just, now we got to go back. I got to go back and fix this Law and Crime Network. It's just going to really complicate it. Listen up.
Surrounding this case, but for as much as we don't know from the FBI, and we have to wait and hear what they have to say, what we are learning, what stands out to you?
What we're learning is, they have the ability to really pinpoint comings and goings of people because of the videos that are on that ship. I mean, in a cruise line is, you're kind of like Times Square. There's a camera everywhere on the cruise ship, except in the staterooms, which is where we're coming to. But some of the things that pop up that are so intriguing is just where it takes place. Like you said, Chris, this doesn't happen normally on a cruise ship, especially hiding the body and, the possible infatuation that is coming out with the stepbrother and the victim. All this plays into this just kind of movie-like crime that took place on this cruise ship. But I think, the more they establish a timeline in this is going to be very important.
And you think of all the videos that the FBI
I agree,
has
Lisa.
access to, if Carnival's turned all of those over, to just follow, this stepbrother.
I mean, that's a pretty effed up child at that age, for sure. So yeah, let's hope this system isn't what Ashley Banfield said. It's like sweep it under the rug and then everything is erased at when you're 18, because kids are old enough to know what they're doing at 16.
See what happens from an official charging standpoint if that takes place. Anna Kepner, I mean, I'm sure outside of being in a stateroom, you can see every single step that they had on that cruise ship on the 6 days that they were aboard, every interaction they had as well. But knowing that allegedly she was found under a bed in a stateroom where there isn't a camera, and maybe even you see the stepbrother who was sharing that room with her, you see him go in, maybe you see him come out, but how do you put together the timeline of what happened in a place where you don't have a camera of what exactly happened when she died?
Well, that's a good thing. Like I just said, you have the entrances and the hallways of a particular part of that ship. So you can establish pretty well the last time she enters that room and doesn't come out, who's in there with her. You can also go by, I think the keys are all electronic now as well. So you can now pinpoint who's actually accessing that room at what particular time. So the timeline can get established pretty well with just on the video cameras themselves. And, as far as witnesses too, the parents, when's the last time they saw her? She wasn't feeling well when they had dinner and she went back to the room. So there's a starting point to the last time someone may have seen her into the last time someone exited that room other than her.
So the people with her reportedly on the ship, you have her stepmom, Chantel Hudson. She's the one in this custody battle where everything's coming to light, just as far as the circumstances surrounding the 6-day cruise that they were on. You have her now husband, who's Anna's biological dad, Chris Kepner. He hasn't said a lot to the media, but he could testify in a hearing coming up related to his now wife. And then the 2 stepchildren and Anna Kepner. How important are the videos, not just of maybe the final moments where she goes into a room and then maybe that stepbrother, based off what has been speculated, he goes into the room. What role did the videos of any sort of interactions they've had on that ship during the 6 days they were at sea, how could that play into an investigation?
Oh, it's important because on top of the witness statements, which all of them will be interviewed, and others on that ship as well who had any contact with her, the videos are great, but you need the corroborating statements to go along with those videos. So if there's a video of the 2 of them interacting and maybe having an argument or something to that effect, and someone actually talks about that, that's important. So you always want, witness statements to go along with video evidence that you have, because it just makes a stronger case when and if this individual gets charged.
Knowing that right now, the person who, in court, the parents called him a suspect. He's 16 years old, considered a minor, a juvenile. What type of access to investigators?
Yeah, this is getting interesting here.
Him about what might have happened on board.
Yeah, the parents are going to have to be there and consent to that interview. You're not going
The parents are going to have to consent to that interview.
to interview a juvenile by himself on his own. So the parents are going to have to be notified. If they have a lawyer that might be representing this individual, he's going to have to be notified. So it's not as easy as just going to him and speaking to him. There's a whole, layout as far as policy goes, when and even if you can talk to this juvenile.
And if the juvenile wants to talk,
when and if you can even talk to the 16-year-old. Wild. It gets even more complicated. Keep listening.
Up to the parent of when the interview starts and when the interview ends?
Absolutely. Yes, he can say all he wants, but he's in control and custody of his parents. So he could start just running his mouth. If they tell him to shut up, he's going to be quiet. But again, everything's there. So, written statements are going to be done as far as the observations during an interview. So it all depends on what is said, how it's said, and who's in that room at the time.
And I know his mom in this custody hearing, she spoke up and said that he has a psychiatrist appointment next month, which opens the door to speculation that there's some sort of mental health issue going on there. As an investigator, how hard is it to get access to understanding whatever type of conversations he might have had with a psychiatrist or any sort of treatment he's received related to mental health issues?
Yeah, those are tough because of the confidentiality of it. Those are going to be difficult to get. But if the psychiatrist is willing, to speak to investigators about what was going on and what is said, maybe not give the whole story about his treatment, that's one thing. So it's going to just be a line of questions that the psychiatrist is able to answer, and maybe not even the psychiatrist. You can talk to the parents as well about what is the overall treatment. Why is he seeing this individual? All that isn't confidential. Just of the reasonings this process is going on in his life.
The time of
So, this is even more disheartening because the clip we just saw of the ex-boyfriend, we saw earlier on in the first video, Ashley Banfield's video, that the father of the ex-boyfriend said his son told him, "Dad, I tried to tell Anna's parents, stepmom and dad, this was going on with the stepmom's son, her stepbrother, 16-year-old, that he was obsessed with her, and they ignored it. And then now she's dead on a cruise that he is seen and heard to be fighting with in the cabin that they shared together. And the parents have admitted in their divorce custody hearing that 16-year-old, their son, is the suspect in this. So it looks like he's the one that did it. She didn't die naturally. She was stuffed under the bed, died from asphyxiation by somebody's arm, cutting off her breath to her neck that had bruises on it, according to yesterday's newest report. But they're in the middle of a divorce hearing, which is going to complicate how the other siblings, the witnesses, can and may testify. Listen up.
Death for Anna Kepner. And this has just been because
wild.
we don't know her cause of death. The FBI hasn't even said whether they believe that this is a murder. They're just saying that they're investigating. But it was listed by the Miami-Dade County Medical Examiner 11:17 in the morning on Friday, November 7th. when you list a cause of death, an ME does that mean when the body was found, or are we talking about specifically they have somehow determined that that was the moment that she died?
Yeah, that's going to be interesting because I've never heard such a precise time when it came to a time of death. 11:17. Whenever, I was involved in a homicide investigation, it was between 2 and 4, 5 and 10, something along those lines. But to be so specific is going to be very interesting of how and why they came up with that. Right now, because everyone's playing this so close and being quiet about it, we don't know what exactly the FBI has. They could have a mountain of information and evidence that they're just not ready to release yet. And all that will come out down the line, but there might be something very specific about why that time came up that we'll learn later on.
And when it comes to her cause of death,
the brother trying to get into the cabin, maybe?
No, we're waiting for a final autopsy. That hasn't been made public. The toxicology hasn't yet come back or been made public by the FBI. But her body has been turned over to the funeral home where she had her celebration of life, according to some local media outlets. I think of if this was a stabbing, the funeral home, I mean, I assume you'd be able to tell that that's how somebody was attacked and potentially died. If it's something as obvious as that, as opposed to maybe an overdose, and I'm more generally speaking here, would the FBI hold off on turning a body over to a funeral home if it was something that would immediately show just from the outside, someone could see and say, okay, this is the cause of death of how somebody passed away?
Well, if the autopsy is completed and the reports are being done, then there's no really reason to hold on to the body. The main reason is to make sure the autopsy is done completely and it's over and it's finished and a determination is coming down the line. They may have a theory about how she died.
Which again, this just came out last night. So this was reported just hours before it was reported that she was strangled to death.
That's going to be their focus once the autopsy starts, whether, let's just say in this strangulation, where there are ligature marks, where there's something around the neck that
now we know bruising.
To think that's what the cause of death was. They'll look at that and then proceed with the rest of the autopsy, which has to be done. I don't think there was any other trauma like a stabbing. I think that would have came out by now, on top of what would have had to be done in that stateroom with a crime scene like that. Stabbings lead to blood, lead to smears, lead to splatter, and it would have been a totally different crime scene, I think, if something like that took place.
The other thing that keeps sticking out to me is that the boat is making its way to the ship back from Mexico, I think it was, back to South Florida, Miami, and it was November 7th the body's found, but the ship doesn't get back until the 8th. Does that impact the crime scene at all? That if this is a criminal investigation.
I thought it was the night, so I'm confused. I'm so sorry if I misreported that. So I thought she was found the morning of the 8th when the ship got back. So this is interesting because I haven't heard that reported ever before by anybody else. So
and say crime scene, that impacts the crime scene. You don't have investigators yet on board the ship, and you kind of just have to isolate the area. Is there still a worry that some evidence could vanish in the 24 hours that the ship's still making its way back to port?
Yeah, the good thing about this on a law enforcement side is it's an interior crime scene. So basically all you have to do is close the door. That ship, stand in front of there, whether they take shifts or whatever. But it's a good thing on the investigative side that it's inside because, like I said, all you're doing is closing the door and making sure no one goes in there. And that's preserving the crime scene.
What do you make of the stories that are coming out now that this, and it's alleged that this stepbrother, that he had this infatuation with Anna Kepner? This is a blended family, so they're not blood, but he was, quote, obsessed with her. And I know that there are sometimes dynamics in blended families, but just in cases you've seen, what stands out to you when you hear that?
So this clip is a prior.
I would initially.
This clip is a prior cruise.
And totally focus on to start this is social media. When you have that type, let's just say it is true, and you have that type of info. So looking at social media posts, writings, diaries, books, anything to do with anything in this young man's life, I would be looking at, because more than likely he expressed those feelings somewhere, whether on social media or a book or something like that. So that's what I'd be looking at, on top of interviews and statements from other people involving these two people. What was said? Did he ever talk to her? Talk to anyone else about her? So all that is going to be, covered when you start down that line of the investigation.
And it's interesting too. I just find it fascinating that if this is a murder because it happened on a cruise ship, this is the federal government now prosecuting someone. If they had done it at a hotel in Brickell, neighborhood of Miami, this is a case that the Miami police or the Miami
Hello, Veronica. Welcome in, Annie.
Talking about a state case in Florida. How does the investigation and potentially the prosecution differ when you're talking the federal government compared to a local police department?
Yeah, well, being that it's on a cruise ship, it's considered international waters, which is covered by the FBI. And the FBI has a specific team that covers cruise ship crimes. It is one of the teams that I knew. I wasn't on it, but I knew back when I was on the task force. And they do all those crimes. The difference is you're dealing with two different, lines of the criminal justice system. You're dealing with either the United States Attorney's Office, if it goes federally, which it should because of where it took place. And if it just happened in like a hotel, like you stated, it'd be the local district attorney's office and the local police that'd be handling it.
We'll see how this case plays out. A lot that we're learning in this custody hearing that was completely unrelated to the case until now, very much tied together. We'll see what the FBI says if and when they're ready to make a statement.
So my mistake, I was another podcast that I saw where they were talking about, I thought it was on this one, where they were talking about the fact that there's a divorce stake. So what's gonna happen is dad and mom of the 16-year-old are already in a custody battle that's been going on for over a year. And the other sibling, Anna probably didn't want to cause problems in this very complicated family situation. She didn't. It could be, but the ex-boyfriend told the parents, the stepmom and dad, and they apparently chose to ignore it, according to the ex-boyfriend's dad. Right? We just saw that clip, and I think what I heard somewhere else on another podcast, I can't remember if it's Vinny's or another podcast I was listening to. What will happen is because it's a custody battle, mom and dad of the 16-year-old. They're going to want to, in order to investigate this case, they're going to want to bring in what we were just talking about, her bio son, Anna's bio brother testimony that he was trying to get into the cabin. But mom's going to be able to potentially stop that from happening because that would damage her custody case. You see where it gets complicated? And so I heard that on another podcast. So because of this custody battle, getting the information from the bio kids who were witnesses might be a problem because it could have an impact on their custody battle. So anyways, that's going to be all for what we cover here today, because as I said earlier, I think this is almost already wrapped up, this case. If we get any updates as to what happens if this stepson is going to go to juvie and he's charged as a juvenile, I'll let you know. But other than that, that's probably all we're going to cover here. And tomorrow night at 6:30 p.m., we're going back to Sebastian Rogers because, man, I had some downloads or a clarifying download. So see you all tomorrow night at 6:30 p.m. Eastern to talk about Sebastian Rogers. And I'm also going to talk about other things other than the download, just a few other things quickly about Sebastian Rogers tomorrow night at 6:30 p.m. Eastern. Have a great day, everybody. Love and light. Thank you to everybody who's here this morning. Enjoy your Saturday.